Hello there.
Hey everyone, Hybrid Toy Reviews here, and today I am going to be talking about the 7 Revenge of the Sith retro carded figures we got and ranking them. So, you know me, I love to do a good figure ranking video, and I figured the retro carded Revenge of the Sith figures would be something fun to talk about. This is a subline that a lot of people like to knock for not including the characters they wanted to have in it, and I don't know. Not everything needs to be double packed in a retro card. Some things definitely need to go to mainline just because it's the mainline. I'm not super against it. This is like a fun little thing to do on the side, but ultimately, as long as we're getting characters like that new Anakin and Obi-Wan we were asking for, I could kind of care less what cardboard they come in. And also, who says this is the end? These retro cards could pop up anywhere in the future. You guys remember those Phantom Menace retro cards? We got a couple of them in the 1 anniversary, and then they brought it back for the 50th Lucasfilm anniversary a year or two later. So, just because the Revenge of the Sith retro cards are done for this year, does not mean they're gone forever. So, keep that in mind. You never know. But anyway, we have 7 so far. I'm going to rank them as is. They're all Walmart exclusives, but to give Walmart credit for once, they've actually all been pretty readily available on shelves. I guess maybe your local one may or may not have gotten it, but for me, I go out, I hunt, I hit multiple different Walmarts. I've seen every single figure on this list many, many times in person, and that's a really, really fun, good thing. So, very good job on distribution of this wave. So, let's go ahead and get into it, talk about these 7 figures, and see where they ultimately stand on my ranking. In spot number 7, I have Aayla Secura. Now, don't get me wrong, there's nothing really wrong with this figure. The likeness is fine, the articulation is fine. Certain things are a little dated. Those legs are definitely turning 7 this year. But it's just one of those figures where she was not expensive on the secondary market. The Redbox Aayla Secura was going for retail, $20, $25. You could go to any toy show, you could hop on eBay, you could get her for retail, sometimes a little below. And it's just one of those figures where it's like, she was out there. Like, why waste a spot on her? I don't know what I would have put in her place, but it's just a figure that's just kind of like, okay, it's here, and it's just not a great motivating selling point. I do like the inclusion of the blue swoosh blade, though, definitely, and a crumb of incentivization here. In spot number 6 is Count Dooku, another reissue. Now, he's from the red and black packaging, and he comes with a swoosh blade as well as a standard blade. However, he'd originally come with that, so not including it would be downgrading the figure. I understand there's something a little bit different with the cloak on this one from the standard one. The stitching around the neck area is slightly different, and the original one's slightly better in that regard. It looks fine to me in the box, but I'm not opening one. It's just one of those figures where, once more, the red box had been reissued a time or two. He wasn't really that much on the secondary market. It's nice to keep Dooku out there, I guess. He's a prequel villain of importance. Maybe not evergreen enough to keep in an A-list package, but maybe every 2 or 3 years is a good idea to get him out. Like, I'm not knocking that, but it's just one of those figures where, he's in Revenge of the Sith very, very briefly. I could think of other characters to put in other than Dooku, and it wasn't giving if you were going to reissue something, it wasn't giving us something that had accrued a lot of secondary market value. You could get Dooku for retail if you'd looked. So yeah, just my thoughts. Spot number 5 is Kit Fisto, and this one's definitely a bit better. He is a straight reissue. There's no real changes here to him. However, Kit Fisto had not been reissued. He was starting to accumulate a bit of a secondary market value. Nothing insane. He was getting up to like $40. So it's one of those figures where, yeah, get this guy back on shelves, and this is a fun way to do it, even though the head sculpt is Attack of the Clones accurate and not really Revenge of the Sith accurate, and that's the movie you're basing it off of. That could have got me to buy a second one, because it's a very different head between the two movies, but it is what it is. Ultimately, it's just a good character to keep out there. It's all about that smile. And in spot number 4, we're starting to get into the fun stuff here. We have a repaint of the Magna Guard, this time bringing him into a Revenge of the Sith accurate deco. And I gotta say, he looks really, really good. I love the metallic-y blue going on. He's got a little bit of subtle weathering. The cape looks really good. It's tattered in just the right ways. The Magna Guard sculpt is still a little fiddly and definitely underscaled. However, if you're not going to give us a whole new sculpt, this was at least a good way to bring that current sculpt we have into the Revenge of the Sith line. He's a very good looking figure, and even though he has some inaccuracies, I do highly recommend him for your collection. In spot number 3 is R2-D2 as he appears in Revenge of the Sith. He includes the much required addition of his thrusters, and they have little flame effects, and they look really, really good. He comes with many of the attachments the other astromechs have come with, the little forward probing attachments and claw attachments. He is, however, missing the periscope, which we had gotten in other issues. It's one of those things where it's like, why take it away from the figure? However, to note, he doesn't use it in the movie, so it's like, okay, it is what it is. However, it's always good keeping R2-D2 out there. I would rather have the thrusters over any other accessories he would come with. So this is an R2-D2 I would consider one that we should keep as an evergreen, keep it out every now and then. And I was able to pick up a bunch of this one on clearance, so I finally have an R2 for like every movie shelf, which is just awesome. In spot number 2 is the Tactical Ops Trooper, or as I call him, the 501st Trooper. Tactical Ops Trooper was the name of these guys in the original Revenge of the Sith packaging run, and then later on they were called 501st in universe, and so then they started calling them 501st on the packaging. But just originally they were Tactical Ops, hence the name on this guy. But this is a really, really great figure. It is a 501st Clone Trooper in a shade of blue that's a little bit more Revenge of the Sith accurate. It's still a little bit light. Not terrible, though. The Kenobi ones were very pale. I personally like the Kenobi ones more, so I'm going to keep all those Commander Appos on my shelf. But a 501st Clone Trooper is like the one Legion that should be on shelves at all times. I would argue 212th would be a close second to that, though. Speaking of the 212th, at spot number 1 is Clone Commander Cody, the best thing to come from the Revenge of the Sith retro card line. This is a Commander Cody on the 2023 Clone Trooper sculpt, redoing that terrible 2014 sculpt one from all the way back in the blue line. He features modern articulation. He features a Tamura Morrison likeness, however it is missing the face scar. A big blunder there, Hasbro. But he also comes with the hologram of the Emperor telling him to execute Order 66. It's a really fun accessory, and one that's absolutely iconic to this movie. This is an excellent figure, easily the best thing to come from the Revenge of the Sith retro card lineup, and one that I think is an essential figure for any of your shelves. So, those are my thoughts on the 7 Revenge of the Sith retro card figures we've gotten. Again, the line might not be over. You never know what they might choose to add in the future. But, anyways, I would argue that all of these figures are good figures. If any of them are ones that you don't have in your collection, there's not really any reason not to pick them up. And the retro cards are just really cool if you're sentimental about that era of figure collecting. It's kind of just fun to have a full set carded hanging up on the wall, I'm not an inbox guy by any stretch, but I don't know, something about these just tickles the brain, it's the remember berries, right? So, anyway, what are your thoughts on these retro carded figures? Is there one character that you really wanted in this that you didn't get? Who's your favorite of the 7 that we got? Fire off in the comments down below. May the Force be with each and every one of you, and I hope you all have a great day. Bye!